So we're going to start with a transparent Loomis head. I provided the reference photo and then the reference photo with the Loomis head over top of it so that you can begin to understand precisely where these features should be placed when it comes to your Loomis head on your paper. So as always, the ear is placed in the bottom rear quadrant of the oval, which is your side plane. And when I say rear, of course, I mean rear to the face. Now, after the ear is sketched in and you have that two-dimensional shape placed, it is then a good best practice to start to draw in the hair, and specifically following where the hairline is for the Loomis head, okay? Once we have that drawn in, then you can go back over the top of the Loomis head and you can start to draw in place the basic shape of the subject's hair. Now, when you're sketching your portraits, you're going to follow this exact same approach. But the reason why I've constructed this specific video in this manner is so that you can begin to understand exactly where those features are placed and why, okay? Now, once we have the hair placed, for this specific reference photo, we then want to place the nose bridge plane. Okay, of course, we are referring to the Asaro method here for this step. But right here, we have the eyebrows. Now notice the reference photo that has the Loomis head. Those lines are there for a reason, and they're to help you with this step of the process. Once we have the eyebrows drawn in, then you want to place your frame lines. Of course, you have an Asaro plane that extends from the temple, and this will help you place your second frame line. And then, of course, you have your third frame line. And then you can use all three of these frame lines to punch in exactly where the eye sits, okay? Yeah, something just like that. And then, of course, we have the other eye as well. Profile angles are a little different in that sometimes it might be better for you to start to draw the nose first before you draw the eyes. It's really a personal preference, but this is definitely the most fail-safe way to do it, okay? So now, notice the reference photo with the Loomis head, right? That nose line that extends from the bottom of the oval all the way through to the edge of the face. We are going to use that as the beginning of our nose, and we're going to draw the nose from the bottom up, right? So we have these planes. The top plane that we're drawing right here is what is known as the nose ridge plane. The ridge plane plugs into the bridge plane, and then you have your side plane here. And then you have your bottom plane, just like this. And then we have the nostril. I'm not going to get too crazy with definitions in this one simply because of the nature of the video. I'm just showing you how the Loomis head corresponds to feature placement, okay? So now right here we have our anchor points. The anchor point for the top of the upper lip, and then the anchor point for the bottom of the lower lip. We have the corner of the mouth identified here, and we're just going to connect that, and then we're just going to lightly sketch in the bottom of our lip. This is why the Loomis method is so effective for artists, is because we can use it as the foundational framework for the rest of our portrait, right? Just like that. And that is pretty much how you place the features on a profile portrait. Now moving on to the straight on angle. We have our transparent Loomis head. And this is important to note because you cannot see the side oval. So a lot of times this angle confuses artists. But basically what it is the ears will extend from the nose line. They extend up from the nose line. And they have to do that because of the principle of how the Loomis head is structured, right? So once we have the ears placed, then, just like before, we want to pull our lines up until we get to the hairline of the Loomis head. We're going to use that as the basis for exactly where our hair stops. Now, this reference is a little different simply because he's wearing a hat. So we just want to sketch in the basic outline of the hat while we're here. Something just like this. And then, of course, he has his hair. So we want to make sure that we speak to that. And it's just the basic shape. Remember, it's all about feature placement. But yeah, we're just going to pull this line down just like this. And then we want to more or less solidify the hairline. You can see how the Loomis head really does give you the necessary framework so that you can be successful as far as placing the features. Now, when it comes to shading and value building and high value retrievals, that's a whole nother step in the process. Okay, so just like before, we want to identify the bridge of the nose, which is dead center of the eyes. And again, refer to the reference photo that has the Loomis head over the top of it. Because when you look at that, you can start to understand why we are placing the features where we are in this specific drawing. Typically, the brow line will follow the brow of the subject. Now, every subject's going to be slightly different. Sometimes that brow line goes right through the eyebrows. Other times it'll actually go slightly below. Very rarely does it go over the top of the eyebrows. So as long as you're within that small space, you should be fine. And then, of course, we extend the frame lines down, and then we connect them. And I always recommend drawing eyes like this, especially when you're placing them on your portrait, right? Start from the eyebrows and then work your way down. And this will also help you with proportion of the features themselves, which is another challenge when it comes to drawing portraits. But for the most part, once we have the eyes placed just like this, then, just like the first angle, we want to start with the nose line of the underlying Loomis head. So we can establish our bottom plane, and then we can work our way up from there. And if you need to make adjustments while you're drawing along with me, then absolutely, go ahead and do that. That's why we have erasers, so that we can make those necessary adjustments. And now you see we have the bottom plane pretty much drawn in, so we can establish the tip of the nose. And then this right here, obviously it's a different angle than the profile angle that we just covered, but this is the nose ridge plane, right? The ridge plane extends from the bridge plane and plugs into the tip of the nose, just like this. And then this is the bottom plane, which extends off the bottom of the ridge plane. And then we're going to use that underlying Loomis head. We're going to use that upper lips anchor point for how far we need to extend down our philtrum lines, right, to bring out that plane. And then I like to draw in the corners of the mouth and then simply connect those corners to the Cupid's bow of the upper lip. Now, the Cupid's bow is the top center of the upper lip, and it forms more or less the top of a heart, and that's why they call it a Cupid's bow. But once we have that, then we establish the center line of the lips and then the bottom lip. Of course, we have a little bit of a drop shadow here. And then after that is all done, that's pretty much the hard part as far as placing those features. Now, obviously, you can probably understand that the success of your feature placement depends heavily on how you sketch your Loomis head to start with, right? Because everything is based off of it. So if your Loomis head is slightly off, then your features are going to be slightly off as well. So just be aware of that, okay? All right, moving on to the last angle, the 3/4 turn. So, just like before, when it comes to these side angles, you want to start with the ears. Again, because we know the drawing's all about repetition, we want to place the ear in the bottom rear quadrant of our side oval. And of course, rear means what? That's right, rear to the face. So once we have the ear drawn in, we can use that as an anchor point for drawing in our hairline. Because the Loomis head itself is meant to be the anchor point for where we start to place our features. But if you really want to get a good grasp on feature placement, you want to start with specific features first. I always like to start with the ear. And I always go from the sideburns on angles such as this, and I go up to the hairline of the Loomis head, right? I want to abide by the structure that I've already given myself. I want to work smarter, not harder. So, approaching the drawing in this manner will definitely help you to not get lost in the process and not get frustrated because your proportions are off. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. It's that simple if you make it so, right? Okay, and then once you have the basic shape of your hair drawn in, we then draw in our what? That's right, we draw in our nose bridge plane. Once we have the bridge plane established, we want to refer to our reference photo that has the Loomis head over the top of it, and we are going to place our eyebrows. Yeah, just like that. Then of course we have our frame lines for our eyes, right? We have that temple plane. We can always pull that down. I recommend, as far as the temple plane goes, for that second frame line, get used to doing that. It'll just help you begin to understand the three-dimensional form of the face outside of just the eyes, right? And you'll start to understand how the entire face is connected as far as the planal structure according to the Asaro method is concerned, okay? And then of course we just have the eyebrows here. She's got some eyeliner, looks like, so we want to draw on the two-dimensional shape for that, just so her eye, more or less looks like her eye. Okay, and then once the eyes are done, then we want to start where? That's right, we want to start with that underlying Loomis head's nose line. We want to build our nose from the bottom up, okay? We have the bottom plane here, something just like that. We have the nostril. And then of course we have our nose ridge plane. We want to make sure that we bring that out. Yeah, something just like that. Of course, the nose ridge plugs into the nose bridge plane. And then we have our slope planes right here that slope off of the ridge plane. You don't have to put the slope planes in. You might notice that I didn't do it for the straight on angle. It's really personal preference. But it does help with angles such as profile and 3/4 turn. All right, and then of course, we want to extend the philtrum lines down. We want to identify the corner of the mouth, connect those two bits. That'll bring out our lips. And with this one, we can split the upper lip into 2 planes and then the bottom lip into 3 planes. And then once you have the facial features placed, then you want to carve out the edge of the face. And this will really bring the drawing a lot more character, and it'll help make it that much more accurate. So that's pretty much it. Stay happy, stay healthy, and remember, never stop drawing.